Today's video is partially sponsored by Sunshine Games in Tampa, Florida. Tampa's premium hobby store. If you play it, they have it. They have everything from Pokemon to Battlesphere Saga, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and even Shadowverse Evolved and the greatly anticipated Lorcana. If you're in the Tampa area, swing into their Tampa location on Telecom Drive. And if you're looking for a local event, head on over there as well. Now, if you can't go to their location, just go straight to their website or even their TCG player store. Links to both of those will be in the description below. Also, the address to the store. Thank you, Sunshine Games, for being a part of this video. Now, let's get into it.
The Eve of Empire, an Imperial Chronicle. Episode 3. Year 1 Pre-Empire, the Imperator's Great War. Recollections from Tokiwa and the life of Manaka. A report from the Angels of Light Aegis came in. The enemy's main force had been pushed back. I remember looking around a moment later and realizing that Manaka had vanished. We had only talked about making that now famous surprise attack, and he had already accomplished it, leaving the rest of us in his wake. A lot is said about Manaka's prowess in combat, but the strength of his convictions and his quick decision-making are what really make him strong. Blaze Aegis wasted no time invading the stronghold of the Five Nation Alliance. Their establishment had gathered anti-Blaze Aegis sentiment into one location, and crushing them now would remove all threats of organized resistance. While allowing them to gather made that more difficult, it also saved Blaze Aegis the effort of crushing them individually. Naturally, Kai was confident of victory, even facing Manaka. Thus began the Imperator's Great War, pitting those two heroes and sworn comrades against one another. It was Manaka's goal to remove the false confidant at Kai's side. Kai hoped to win a reconciliation with Manaka under beneficial circumstances, and held onto the position that said confidant was responsible for instigating their rush to battle. Though the alliance had gathered from 5 nations, most of its numbers were essentially defeated soldiers, and Blaze Aegis had the upper hand when it came to military strength. Fortunately, the local terrain favored the 5 nations alliance defensive position. Kai's adopted strategy, known as the Mobile Stronghold, was a tactic which evaded surprise attacks and potential reversals of fortune by moving their headquarters around the battlefield. Kai had also mastered the magic of clairvoyance, making it possible to grasp conditions all across the battlefield without the need of direct observation. The battle progressed in Blaze Aegis' favor, and victory soon appeared to be within their sights. However, there was more to the Godslayer hero than simple strength. Realizing their position was only growing more disadvantageous, Manaka commanded 3 attendants and several Angels of Light Aegis to pinpoint the enemy's headquarters. His past experience fighting alongside Kai allowed him to anticipate the Blaze Aegis leaders' use of their mobile stronghold strategy. Once the enemy's location was revealed, Manaka used teleportation magic to carry out a surprise attack without any backup whatsoever. This so-called Godslayer tactic, which was later discovered Manaka had been using since his first campaign, long before the Void Lords, immediately put him face-to-face with Kai. Students of military strategy all agree this maneuver from the man called a hero would change the face of combat forever, and they continue to study its results as a textbook example. All Manaka had to do was seize their headquarters and demand an armistice. And the war would be over. When Manaka appeared, he rushed forward to confront Kai one-on-one, slipping past aides and knocking others out of the way. He had no intention of using Kai as a shield, but their sudden, close proximity made it difficult for others to intervene. However, Manaka's desire for reconciliation ended up threatened by a third party, Zeon, and the rest of his band from Ocean Aegis. Even more unexpected, their blades were pointed at Kai. It was Manaka who helped Kai overcome shock and fight back. Despite superior numbers, Zeon and his band were driven out of the headquarters by that unrivaled pair of heroes. Once the confusion had settled, Kai sat and listened to Manaka, eventually accepting his offer of an armistice. Many feel that had even 30 more minutes passed, the armistice would have come too late to save the 5 Nation Alliance from being completely torn asunder. Year 1 Pre-Empire, Peace Talks. Excerpt from the autobiography of Imperator Kai. I can still remember the tension I felt at those peace talks. Despite my attempts to appear calm, it felt like my heart was going to leap out of my mouth. Only one other time in my life have I been so nervous, and I can only hope that my voice never cracked during any speeches. Peace talks between representatives of Blaze Aegis and the Five Nation Alliance began almost immediately upon the following armistice. What? Okay. Peace talks between representatives at Blaze Aegis and the Five Nation Alliance began almost immediately following the armistice. Speaking for the Alliance interests was Manaka. While in favor of unification, they opposed governance by Blaze Aegis, instead favoring equality among all of the nations. Such views did not agree with the Blaze Aegis, however. After working so hard for unification, they did not wish to abandon their original efforts. When the talks began to falter, Manaka voiced a suggestion. In return for their insistence on equality, what if Kai were made the first emperor of their newly unified empire? This time, it was the rest of the Five Nation Alliance that disagreed. Their wish was for Manaka to ascend to the throne. After all, only he had earned their allegiance. Manaka found himself in a pinch. He had no desire to sit on the throne. Clear divisions were beginning to show in the talks, and there is no sign of the compromise in sight when Kai finally spoke up with a new proposal. "I have a suggestion," Kai said. "Manaka, you should become my husband." Kai would immediately be crowned emperor, and the two of them would marry. The children later born to them would come to be seen as true symbols of unification. That was her proposition. "Surely you won't shame a woman by refusing her marriage proposal," Kai continued. Kai always appeared on the battlefield dressed in a masculine military attire. Therefore, many of those in attendance at the talks failed to realize her actual gender. You could hear a pin drop as her proposal drew blank stares from the audience. When Manaka awkwardly gave his consent, another brief moment of silence followed before the meeting hall erupted with shouts of joy. As outcomes went, it was the best political compromise for all sides. Everyone was in a celebratory mood as attendees set forth balancing the empire's authority with the rights of each individual nation. By the time the peace talks came to a close, the birth of a new empire had been established. Imperial Chronicle Year 1, Birth of the Empire. Excerpt from the autobiography of Imperator Kai. I'm sure many people interpret our decision to wed as a well-thought-out political strategy designed to achieve peace, and they are free to believe what they wish. My thoughts have been filled with Manaka ever since that first time I saw him standing heroically on the battlefield. Only my dear husband and son, Kunimi, need recognize how truly joyful I am to be married for life to my first love. The imperial government was established not in Blaze Aegis, but within the nation of Dark Aegis, where Manaka had spent much of his childhood, and that was where the coronation took place. There was no complaints heard from Blaze Aegis, however, since Kai and Manaka decided to hold their marriage ceremony there afterwards. Kai's judgment had failed her following Manaka's loss while fighting the Void Lord, leaving her susceptible to Zeon and the power of his suggestions. In later years, it came to light that Zeon had planned on seizing the Empire after unification, and now most scholars agree that the forceful invasions seen during the Imperator's Long March had never been Kai's intention. Proof of that could be seen in the respect Kai received from those once opposed to her, who she then won over with the benevolence of her reign. Manaka, on the other hand, chose to support Emperor Kai quietly from the shadows and stay out of the political spotlight. Following her death, he left the empire in the hands of her capable aides and their son, Kunimi, building himself a small training hall in what had once been Wind Aegis, where he lived out the rest of his life in relative seclusion. Afterward, the empire and its history began with first Emperor Kai's ascension to the throne. Following its establishment by our two heroes, what would eventually become of the empire? The answer to that question is the subject of another discussion altogether. For now, I would like to end this chronicle by simply encouraging you to reflect on all of the lives touched by the radiance of our two heroes. It is my sincerest hope that someday, documents yet to be discovered will add even more detail to the many footsteps these two heroes have left behind in history.
Yo, what up YouTube? Kyle here for Boss TCG, your home for competitive TCG news and content, and you are on the Boss TCG Bandai channel where we talk about Battle Spirits, Dragon Ball Super, One Piece, and Digimon. If you guys like Bandai content and want to see more content on Bandai, hit that subscribe button.
And if you guys like this video, hit that like button. And if you guys just want to join in the conversation, go down in the comment section below and get into that conversation.